Most home care owners don't have a lead problem, they have a follow-up problem. You could spend thousands of dollars running ads, posting content, even paying people to market to get your referrals. But if you don't respond quickly and with a real process, you'll lose every single one to the next agency that picks up the phone first. This video is for anyone running or managing a home care agency who wants to turn more inquiries into real paying clients and finally build a marketing funnel that converts leads instead of losing them. Here's the truth that large agencies won't tell you. Getting leads is easy. You can buy them, run ads, or get referrals from doctors and hospitals. But converting those leads, that's where agencies fall apart. Most agencies fail because they don't have a clear process. They let the phone ring out, they take too long to call people back, or they send one email and move on. Meanwhile, the client's family is still searching on Google and calling your competitors. You can't let that happen, mainly because when someone reaches out, that's your window. They're emotionally charged, they've already admitted that they need help, and the agency that responds first is usually one that lands the business. Let me give you an overview of how this actually should work. The follow-up process starts with the moment that the inquiry hits your system, whether it's a web form that was filled out, a Facebook ad, a random phone call, or a professional referral from a doctor or hospital. The goal is to move that person from just being an inquiry to an intimate connection as quickly as possible. Here's the structure that we use inside my agency. We start first with immediate contact or acknowledgement within minutes. We then move on to scheduling a meeting or home visit right away. You don't need to sit on the phone all day with that patient or that inquiry. Get the nurse to the patient's home as the next step. I do this with a free in-home visit. On that visit, collect the documents that you need during the meeting. This could be insurance cards, an initial assessment, consent for care, and a service deposit if they are moving forward with private services. The next thing that I like to do is move them into onboarding and then into their start of care process. That's the rhythm of managing a successful marketing funnel. Quick, well-connected, and being able to document everything that you need. Now, before I break this down step by step, I want to be able to give you something that you can actually use. If you're not sure what I mean when I'm talking about funnels, download the free marketing template that I've created. I've included it down below. It shows you exactly how to map your client journey from the first inquiry or phone call all the way to the start of care. The link is right down below. It's a simple, fillable PDF, and it'll help you look at your marketing like a real business owner instead of just one hoping for calls. Now let's talk about what happens once that lead reaches you. Your goal is always the same. Get a meeting scheduled immediately. And whenever possible, make it face-to-face. Here's how I rank it. The best option is an in-home visit. Nothing like that builds trust faster. Next best, obviously a Zoom meeting. It's personal, it's visual, it helps to establish that connection. And as the last option, a phone call. It works, but it's less powerful than the other two methods. When people meet you, especially in their homes, they connect with you emotionally. They feel seen and supported, and that's what separates you from the agencies that only communicate by phone. Now, depending on your payer type, your approach changes slightly. If it's a private pay client, your number one goal is to get a nurse in the home. Frame it as a free initial assessment. Say something like, our nurse will come by, talk with your family, review safety, and explain how our care system works. There's no cost to the visit. The nurse can then go and assess the situation, collect a deposit if the family or the client is ready, and also begin to build that relationship. Now, if it's a Medicaid or managed care client, you still want to get someone into the home. A nurse, a social worker, or even a medical assistant that functions as your intake specialist. When you're in the home, you can verify the documents that they need are correct, IDs, insurance cards, Medicaid numbers. You remove the friction of chasing them down later by email or phone. Imagine trying to get a 90-year-old to email you their wife's documents. Not exactly easy. And also, many people and caretakers are busy. If you make it easy for them, they'll choose you. Now, first impressions matter, so here are some tips for putting your best foot forward. I recommend sending a female nurse when possible. Families tend to be more comfortable, and nurses can do the assessment, the start of care, and answer any clinical questions, so they're really the best fit. Now, if you don't have a nurse available, use a social worker or that trained intake coordinator or a medical assistant. What matters most is warmth, professionalism, and establishing that trust. The way that you make the best first impression determines everything else that follows. You're entering someone's home, you're dealing with their loved ones, and you're responsible for ultimately their care and oftentimes their survival. They need to believe that you're capable and compassionate from the start. Behind every great follow-up process is great tracking. Inside my organization, we use two systems that help us stay on top of everything. Going Home, which we built in-house for home care, it's designed for real home care referral management and set up to speak the language of hospitals, managed care, and waiver programs. Everything is labeled exactly how people in the industry talk, especially in the markets that we function in. We also use Go High Level. It's a tracking tool, or really it's a CRM that we use to help us with our ad campaigns. It's perfect for tracking from the top of the funnel where you're building leads and brand awareness to the start of care. It also has good automations for follow-up and nurture of leads coming in from ads. Now, here's the workflow that we track regardless of the system that we use. First is the inquiry stage, or when the lead is coming in. Then we move on to meeting, documents collected, onboarding, and lastly is the start of care. Because you can complete all those steps and not start care, right? So you need to make sure that you go through each of those stages, follow your process for each of those stages, with the goal being that services start and you start to provide care and be able to bill for that contracted arrangement. When you know where every lead sits in your funnel, you could forecast starts, you could track the conversion rates, and you could identify bottlenecks or problems in your process because you're noticing where more and more people are falling off or not converting as well. Now, here's the golden rule. Speed in this game wins every time. If you wait even 10 minutes to call a lead back, the family's probably already talking to another agency. When people need help, they don't wait. They want whoever responds first. Think about your own searches. If you're calling for a taxi on Uber, for example, and get no hits, you already are on to the next app calling an app, or you're walking out into the street and trying to hail a cab. The same happens with home care. So your rule should be simple. Every lead gets a response within 5 minutes, and you should track this and hold your team to it. In my agency, this is the difference between $0 and $17,000. So you better believe that calls have to happen as soon as possible. If they call you and you miss it, someone should call back right away. If they fill out a form, they should immediately get a text or email that says, "Thanks for reaching out. A representative will call you in the next few minutes to schedule your free consultation." Then you should ask in that same automated message, "Is care for you or someone else?" By asking a question, it makes them start to engage with you, and you know that there's a real person on the other side of that inquiry. Then you need to make sure that someone actually does call them. Don't let your automations replace real human connection. Use it to buy you time and use it to collect more information. Earlier, I mentioned some of the tools that I use, and they do have automations. Here's what your automated follow-up sequence should look like. First, when a form is submitted, you should have an instant automated text and email confirmation. Then within 5 minutes, a real person calls to qualify the lead and book the meeting. Within 24 hours, you should send out an automated message, if your system doesn't do this already, confirming the calendar invite for that in-home meeting that we talked about scheduling right away. They should have this as soon as possible, but at least no later than 24 hours. Then within 48 hours after having the meeting, follow up with a thank you and next steps. I think another good step would be the day before the meeting, make sure that the nurse or whoever is doing the house meeting calls them to confirm the time, because this happens sometimes. They schedule a meeting a week out, they forget, your nurse goes out there and no one's home. So it would always make sense to have some sort of confirmation in place, and even sending out reminders automatically that are timed within enough time to let the family arrange themselves or reschedule. This kind of speed builds credibility. Families start to trust that you're reliable before you've even started care. The great part is that your software can trigger these automations based on moving them through the stages of your funnel. Every lead should move through your CRM in real time. There should be no black holes, no missing notes. Track who handled the call, when it came in, and what happened next. If a meeting was scheduled, it should show up in your system, and if the documents were collected, that should be marked off too. Accountability is key. If one person owns each lead, you can make sure nothing slips through the cracks, and that's how you build a predictable pipeline. Not based on luck, but based on a system and a series of processes that ensure success. Now, I want to give you some pro tips and takeaways here that should really sum up everything that we covered in this video. Documentation is everything, even documenting your missed calls. You want to be able to move from that inquiry or that lead to phone call immediately, then to scheduling that in-person meeting, then to actually executing the home visit. And if you do those things, this is your chain for increasing your chances of converting that lead into a client. I always aim for that in-person connection because it's going to allow you to build trust, because people buy trust before they buy just general services. Also, as you're building your system, you need to be able to use your automations wisely. It should help your staff be on top of meaningful communication and not necessarily replace that, because again, that in-person, that person-to-person touch really matters in this service business. You also want to tailor your funnel to your payer type. Private pay, Medicaid, and clients or leads that are using commercial insurance all need slightly different handling because the way that they start care is different, right? Someone who's cutting a check versus someone who's got to go through the Medicaid process versus someone who has to get pre-authorization from their insurance company all have slightly different steps to starting their care. And here's a simple test that you should be doing to ensure that your agency is on top of everything. If you called your own agency right now, would you be impressed with how fast someone responded? Would you be impressed with how they handled the call? If not, that's your signal that you need to absolutely tighten up. Now, if you like my teaching style and what we've covered here, and you want to know exactly how we manage follow-ups in my agency, the automations that we use, the CRM setup, and the playbook for converting more leads, check out our marketing masterclass. I'll walk you through the exact system that we use, including our going home CRM system and the automation templates that keep our pipeline full. You could also download the free funnel template down below to start mapping your own system today. Remember, this business isn't just about getting leads. It's about connecting fast, following up personally, and staying consistent, because the agency that moves first, connects best, and follows up with care will always win.